So what I invite you to do right now is just to consider the space in which it occupies in your frame. So I usually go with a system that features dots, and dots are the simplest form of mark making. Anybody can draw a dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to consider how long or wide this butterfly is. So I'm looking at its wingspan, and I put a dot from tip to tip. Okay, so I have two dots representing the width, the approximate width of the butterfly. So now the length of the butterfly, okay, from the tip of the head, we're not going to worry about the antennae just yet, but from the tip of the head to the base of the wing, okay, that's going to be the approximate length. So we have the width and the length, and it kind of is a little bit of a diamond shape. So what I'm going to invite you to do next might be a little bit unorthodox for you, but think about it like this. An architect always begins a project by putting a plan on paper, right? And we construct our drawing similar to how a contractor would construct a building based on a blueprint. So using this rough estimate of width and length, what we're going to do next is use a series of dots to plot out the coordinates of our specimen here, and we're going to make an outline. And this is technically not the beginning of the drawing yet. We're still in the planning phase. So this gives us a great advantage because what we're doing is we're considering the dimensions and the proportions of this subject so that when we do get to the drawing part, we'll have confidence that we are not only correctly to scale, but also to proportion. And we'll be able to make edits as we go, right? We're not interested in mistakes. There's no mistakes right now. We can make choices and measurement decisions in the form of these sort of dots, these coordinates, and we can measure and remeasure as many times as we like until it feels right. Okay, and that way we're not worried about making mistakes. We're only worried about making accurate measurements. Okay, and this is all based on sight, so you're just uh, giving it an estimate. It's not something that you have to be critically accurate on. Okay, so here's the body, the top of the body here, right where the head is. The antennae will come from here, and then we walk around the length of the whole wing. Okay, it's got a lovely texture on it. Okay, lovely pattern too. We'll worry about that later. Okay, just walking around the base of the wing. Okay, up to the part where we reach the upper section on the right hand side. Okay, and now we have this part of the body here as well. Okay, and the body comes down like around here. Okay, and we have the building blocks or the blueprints for our specimen. Okay, and let me go ahead and adjust the light here a little bit because I am using a light pressure. Here we are. A light pressure so that the dots aren't too strong on the page because we're not going to be tracing these dots, but we're going to be drawing on top of them. So you don't want to press too hard on your paper because then it's going to be harder to erase the dots and it might disrupt your drawing a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to adjust the light a little bit more. Okay, there we go. And when I begin when we begin the next step, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding line to our drawing on top or around our dots. Again, we don't have to trace. So just looking at the tip of the butterfly, the head of the butterfly over here, right? We have the face. Okay, and this is the part where it connects to the body. We also have those lovely little antennae here and here. Those little nodes at the tip, just like that. And it's nice if you could sneak out into your garden, especially in the warm summer months, and catch a butterfly while it's relaxing on top of its flower, and just to observe it, not to hurt it, not to keep it, just to observe it closely and maybe get a good sketch out of it. Okay. So what I've done is I've just used these little coordinates that we put down as guidelines. Okay. Now you can see here, all right, that I'm not tracing the dots verbatim. Okay. They're just there as a guide. Okay. And you're going to notice different parts of the wing structure that we'll expand upon as we finish doing our outline. And the thing that I really enjoy about this type of insect is that its wings are just so brilliant. There's a lot of color, there's a lot of pattern, and they communicate different things to the animals around them. Typically, it's to ward off predators, or it's to camouflage, or it's to attract mates. Color is a very important thing in the insect world. And insects can see a wider range of color. Well, some insects can see a wider range of color than we can. They can see, for example, bees can see in ultraviolet. Okay. So I'm just going and I'm just following the perimeter of this wing here. I'm not really concerned too much with the patterns yet. I'm just looking and seeing how these wings are segmented a little bit. And if you look and you work your way down the body just a little bit, you'll start noticing there's the nice shadow that lies across this section right here. Okay, and you don't have to be too concerned with the absolute accuracy, but just close enough. Just get it so it's close enough. Okay, and I'm not pressing that hard at all. Spending my time being nice and light and loose. Channel the butterfly. Okay, just like that. So I started seeing butterflies as I've been hiking, usually the really small white and purple ones. And I'm definitely keeping an eye out for the larger species, but I don't know if they've come up this far north yet. So what I'm doing now is we're going to start by just expanding a little bit from the base of the body here. And if you want to push it a little bit further away, all you have to do is move the line slightly like that. Not too worried about erasing or anything. Again, we're not concerned with mistakes, we're concerned with measurements. And as we draw, we are allowed to actively edit from where we started. Okay? Because we're thinking like architects first and artists second. Okay. And as we come up this side, I'm seeing that it might be nice to make the wing a little bit longer on this side just to help with the perspective. So what I'm going to do is actively edit and go beyond what I originally planned, just a few centimeters. Okay. So to give you a little look, here's where I originally eyeballed the measurement right around here. So I'm extending the wing just a couple of centimeters forward, and I'm going to bring it around a little bit because I think it would be nice to have a little bit more surface area, just like that, so that it's truer to the form in our reference photo. Okay. And you can see I didn't have to erase, I didn't have to worry too much or fuss about it being perfect. All I did was just extend my line a little bit, and now I'm happy with the proportions of the specimen. So what I invite you to do next is if you see anything that you want to get rid of, if there's excess marks that you made that you don't need anymore, Now is a good time to just get in there with your eraser and clean up a little. And I like using a kneaded eraser. These are typically gray and rubbery, and they're great for a variety of different mediums. I like using them with pencil, color pencil, and even charcoal. And they're great because they can literally lift the material off the page. They're very kind to the paper, so you won't get any distress if you erase with this. Sometimes we use the old school old school erasers, the pink ones. Remember those? And those will tear the paper if you use them too roughly. But the kneaded erasers don't do that. Okay. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to give this little guy a place to stand. So if we follow this piece of foliage down to the bottom of the page, we'll note how it arcs up through the back of the wing here and continues off like this. Okay, same on this side. We're going to say maybe 3 or 4 centimeters from the wing. We'll have this piece of foliage come up here, and then maybe there's another one that kind of crisscrosses off, just like that. Okay. So now that we have a little place for this butterfly to stay, we can consider some of the shadow that we're looking at on the underside of the wing. And I'm just going to mark that off with a very, very faint line. Okay, because I'm going to come into that area later. Now for the body, okay, we're going to look and we're going to see how it's rounded. So I'm going to make little marks like this around the body, following the contour of the body, just like this. Okay. See how it's following the roundness of the body? I'll try to get that as close to the camera as possible. Okay. That's going to help me out when I'm trying to convince the person looking at this that it's a round butterfly. Now we have a very large eye right here, and I'm going to leave a little bit of that eye blank so that it looks like a shine or a reflection. And there's a little bit of hair around the eye as well, or fur, fuzz. Here we go. Same thing on the other side too. It almost looks like he has a nose. Almost. Okay, and where the antennae attach to the head, just want to anchor those evenly. Okay, and let me show you what I got right there. Okay. And I'm just going to follow the roundness of the body all the way down to the tip. And I'm just using some nice light loose marks. Nothing fancy. It almost looks like a transparent silky texture down there, right? Part of the wing is maybe overlapping the body. Now we have some really interesting textures and patterns. So this is something that we can pay a little bit more close attention to. But again, it's a unique pattern. Every butterfly has a different pattern. Okay, similar to how we have different fingerprints. Zebras have different patterns too. There's no two zebras alike. Very interesting. So to get this to feel more organic, what I'm doing is I'm just making individual lines that are spaced out ever so slightly down the length of the wing. And you leave a little bit of white space in between because you want to leave a little bit of room. You want it to feel like these are the scales on the wing, and that they're kind of like, they think about them like pixels, right? What happens when you zoom into a pixelated image all the way? Eventually, what you wind up with is different squares, right? Separated, different units that, when combined, they form a whole picture. Okay, that's kind of what we're going to think about as we progress with our pattern on our butterfly wing. Okay, and if you find things that really help you more accurately place the pattern, like for example, I'm looking at the edge of the wing and there's a little bit of white space, then there's a smaller ring, a larger ring. It almost looks like it has a little eye there, which might be intentional. Then we have another little ring here, and then several others. You don't have to make it perfect. People will know that you're drawing a butterfly and that the pattern is good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And this is just our warm-up sketch, so we don't have to be all the way tuned into this. Just get loose. Just get used to the feeling of your pencil on the paper. Get used to your different types of mark making. Okay. And for the shadow underneath, all you have to do is just make some lines like that. Don't have to worry about making it too detailed here. Okay. Same thing here. We have those lovely eyes, probably to ward off predators. Now, some butterflies broadcast to predators that they're toxic with the type of color palette that they have on their wings. And since nature is tricky, there are non-toxic butterflies that copy the pattern of the toxic butterflies so that predators don't eat them. That's a wonderful evolution there. And the reason that happens is because whatever has the highest chance of survival, that will pass on its genes, and the genes that are more suited towards survival are the ones that become more dominant throughout the gene pool over time. And if that's the way, if that's the trick that helps the species survive, then most of those butterflies that are not toxic will look toxic and will most likely not get eaten by a bird or a predator. And because nature's amazing, they thrive. Okay. So let's go over here to the other wing, and I'm just going to note where the upper part of the wing attaches to the body, right around here. Okay, and we have some veins that come around. Less veins, more like structural filaments, or there we go. Great. So I'm just looking to see where they attach to the wing and to the body, where they split off, similar to the veins in a leaf, right? No pressure. And if you look at this critter long enough, you begin to understand why the pattern is the way it is, and you can maybe ad lib a little bit, create your own pattern based on what you're seeing. And that way, that butterfly is uniquely yours. And who knows, it might exist like that out in nature somewhere. Okay, so just playing around here with those little eye shapes. Okay, we have that nice ribbon that comes through. And if you think about it, you're out on a hike, you get to draw for 5 minutes or so. Think about how you'd want to speed up your drawing a little bit, and what elements you keep and what elements you leave out. And for elements that you leave out, you could always supplement your drawing with little notes. For example, this is just a regular pencil drawing, right? We're not using color. So if, for example, I wanted to supplement my drawing with notes, I can say, put a little arrow here, kind of like a textbook diagram. And I can say gray wings with black ribbons and white orange, black, and then in quotes we could put eyes. Okay. So I'm just going to get a little bit more of that ribbon on the tip of the wing there. Really warm up my hand with this type of mark making. Because when we go into the next exercise, when we get into our robin, we're going to be using a similar approach. We're going to set up our drawing just the same way. We're going to be playing with more texture. We're going to be playing with more line variation. I'm going to get a good artist's workout. Okay, like I said, it's just like riding a bike. The more you do it, the more easy it comes to you, the more fun it is too. That's a cool ribbon, just swirls around the top, swoops underneath. Very graceful, almost like musical notations on a line. I guess they call that a scale, musical scale. And I'll just make the line slightly darker where I see the division. Okay, and I'm not seeing any legs, so we can leave those. Okay, and there we have it. Now you could also add things like measurements. You can write down the location. You can write down the name of the specimen if you understand your butterfly species better than me. So yeah, we can give it a space. Let's say we found this little guy in the garden. Maybe you can say what type of plant it was found by, right? Maybe we could say found by the daffodils. In the back garden. So because we have our location, we have our date, we can know when to start looking for these critters during the year. Because maybe they just show up in the beginning of May and then they'll leave in the end of summer.